So, hello everyone. I hope I'm audible and visible. Please give me a quick thumbs up if my audio video is fine. Everyone, please give me a quick thumbs up. Yogesh, Kaustup, Praveen. All of you, give me a quick thumbs up if my audio video is clear. So, welcome in this late night session of dermatology with me, Dr. Cheshta Agarwal. And we have a little longer session today. We have a 90-minute session. So I have a lot of MCQs here for you today. Like almost we are targeting 90 MCQs today. So let's just finish up this session as early as possible so that you all can go for sleep. Yes, finally we have a very long session. Chalo. So I request all my dear students, we don't have much of them right now. So let's start with the today's session. And before the others join, we will be introducing some of the new courses and I will be telling you about that. So welcome all of you. I'm Dr. Cheshta Agarwal, your NEET PG educator on Unacademy. And you are on the best online platform for the preparation of NEET PG entrance examination. Now, Unacademy give you two type of subscriptions. One is Plus, which give you an access to Unacademy, and you have another which is known as Iconic, which give you an access to both Unacademy and Prep Ladder together. So you have Unacademy and Prep Ladder together in Iconic subscription. Now we are currently going on with a scheme that is only till 12 p.m. today. From tomorrow onwards, the price for the Iconic subscription is increasing. So whosoever is interested in buying Iconic subscription, which is the access to Unacademy, Prep Ladder, the printed notes, like all package. If you want a 1 month, 1 year subscription, it is 38 to 50. From tomorrow, the price will increase to around 50,000 rupees for 1 year. So I request whatever you want to take, please use my referral code CHESTA10 before 12 p.m. today. Okay, so from 1st October, that is tomorrow, the price hike is there for this limited time period. Now, there are many students, we had the same Iconic subscription for 30,000 for one year. And suddenly it becomes 38, and now it is becoming 50,000. So please don't waste time in thinking. You can take a 1 year subscription and prepare yourself for the upcoming entrance examination. Now, we have many new features which are introduced, like raise a hand, which help you interact with your educator directly. Now we have other schemes like highly updated question bank. So this is a very new feature to Unacademy. We give you a lot of MCQs and they have their detailed explanation included. So this is something new for Unacademy. We are very proud of our learners who have achieved very well for NEET PG, and you'll very soon get the leaderboard for them. The batches which have started yesterday are the next batch for NEET PG, INI CT batch for the INI CT November, FMG batch for December FMG, and clinical examination and procedural batch. Now, if you take a longer subscription like 2 year subscription, you have 4 month free. And if you take a 1 year subscription, then 2 month is free. I request all my dear students to please be live for these sessions. Now let's begin with the today's session. All of you give me a quick thumbs up. So we had around 25 students right now. So 30 students right now. I hope the number increase. And many new names I can see here on the leaderboard or on the chat section. So many students new have joined in my classes. Chalo, so let's begin with the first question of the today's session. Very nice. So I'll start the poll. 30 seconds per question will be given. And after you will give the answers, I'll explain them a little bit in detail. What is the treatment of nodulocystic acne vulgaris? Isotretinoin, clindamycin, topical steroids, or benzoyl peroxide? How will you treat nodulocystic acne? Okay. Now let's discuss a little bit about acne. What are the different grades? Now, a few questions I will ask you before telling you the answer of this question. First of all, tell me, acne vulgaris is a disease of what? Disease of skin, appendage. Anyone can tell me the answer. Acne vulgaris occurs because of defect where in your skin? Anyone? Arush, Sangeeta, very nice, Kostu. The defect is in the pylo, which means hair. Sebaceous means sebaceous gland. So pilosebaceous unit. Pilosebaceous unit is getting affected. Now, because of the affection of pilosebaceous unit, you will have four grades of acne. Can you tell me what are the different grades of acne? Obviously, you have grade 1, which will be milder form, and then you have grade 4, which is a more severe form. Very nice. Grade 1 means comedones, which can be both open and close. Yes. Then grade 2 is papule. Grade 3 is a pustule. And grade 4 is nodulocystic acne. Now, the treatment of choice varies depending upon the grade. So, for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, the treatment is different. And for grade 4, the treatment is different. For grade 1, you will give only keratolytic agent like topical retinoids. For grade 2, you need antibiotics. So, you will add topical antibiotics for the treatment. Now, when it is in pustular stage, you need to give a little bit of oral antibiotic. And for the final grade, you have to give the grade 4, you have to give oral retinoid. And oral retinoid known to us is isotretinoin. So what is the question here? The treatment of grade 4 acne, nodulocystic acne, is option number 1. Understood? Anyone has any confusion with this point? So we are clear that what is acne? It is the deformity of pilosebaceous unit. Second point which we know is it has 4 grades starting from comedones, papules, pustules and nodules, and for nodular stage oral isotretinoin is the treatment of choice. Okay? Now please give me a quick thumbs up so that we can quickly move to the next question. Amazing. Very nice. 100% answer. And if answer is 100%, I assume that I don't have to explain this. So this is, you can see a shoulder area of a patient with hyperpigmented lesion, brownish discoloration. Now, whenever you see brown discoloration, what should come into your mind? Anyone? Brown color means the pigment is in the epidermis, and if you have blue color, the pigment is in dermis. So this is a disease where you have abnormal proliferation of melanocytes in epidermis. If it has associated hair or acneiform eruption, this becomes a classical case of Baker's nevus. It becomes a classical case of Baker's nevus. Yogesh, this is a 1.5 hour class, a little longer class. Okay, chalo. Very nice. Sneha, Shri, Naveen. Amazing. So here I don't have much, I don't have many students who have answered this question correct. Okay. So this is the leaderboard. Please look at this. Now we will be doing the variants of acne. You have many variants. The commonest being acne vulgaris. which we have read just now, which has 4 phases or 4 grades starting from comedones going to nodulocystic. That is known as acne vulgaris, the most common variety. Now we have something known as acne excori. Can you tell me what is acne excori? Anyone? What is acne excori? Bushra, Navreet, Sunny, Yogesh, Sneha. When the patient excoriate or scratch the lesions, they are known as acne excori. Understood? So when a patient scratches, it leaves behind pigment, it can leave behind scarring, and that is known as acne excori. I hope that is clear to all my dear students. Now next is drug-induced acne. Can you tell me how drug-induced acne differs from acne vulgaris? Anyone? How does drug-induced acne differs from acne vulgaris? I'm talking about the most common variety. Can you compare this from this? What is the difference? Now remember, we have just now discussed that acne vulgaris has polymorphic lesions. That is, they have 4 grades: comedone, papule, pustule, nodule. But drug-induced acne is monomorphic. You will only see only one grade. It can be either only papules, which will never progress to pustule or nodule, or you will see only comedones, which will not progress into any other stage. Understood the difference between polymorphic and monomorphic? Very important. I request a quick thumbs up if you all remember this. Okay. Next is acne conglobata. And the last is acne fulminans. Now, both these acne are little severe form, which mainly presents with nodule or cyst. Now, how they differ? In acne fulminans, you have associated constitutional symptoms like fever, rash. While in acne conglobata, you will not see much of constitutional symptoms. Another difference is for treating acne conglobata, you will give isotretinoin. But for treating acne fulminans, you have to give oral steroids. Clear? Now, I request all of you to please look at this question. A 20-year-old male with multiparous comedones, intercommunicating abscesses with serosanguinous fluid, which of the following is true? The only correct statement is option number 2, because oral retinoid is the treatment. You will not give oral antibiotic or topical retinoid, and flushing and intolerance is a feature of rosacea. So correct answer here becomes option number 2. Is it clear? Does acne excori have different grades? Yes, but true, it has different grades, and that is why like it is a variant of acne vulgaris only. The only problem is patient is excoriating the lesions. Okay, chalo. Next question is on your computer screen. Quickly answer this. Very nice. Vaishnavi, Lavanya, Nadia, Z, Dr. Sneha, Kaustubh, Yogesh, Aditya. Very well done. So, following which medicine you develop the cleft lip or cleft palate given in this particular question, and the correct answer is isotretinoin. Please remember, isotretinoin has a lot of side effects, and quickly write down all the side effects of isotretinoin. The commonest being, what is the commonest side effect? Very nice, dryness of skin. Second is it causes increase in triglyceride level, or it alters the liver function test. It causes pseudotumor cerebri, which is a space occupying lesions in the brain. It causes DISH, which is diffuse idiopathic skeleton hyperostosis. Diffuse idiopathic skeleton hyperostosis. And lastly, it is teratogenic. And one of its feature of teratogenicity is cleft lip and cleft palate. I hope this is clear to all of you. Should I go to the next question? All of you? Very nice. Now, fatafat se quickly tell me the answer for this question. I think you all can see the poll. Now, 18-year-old girl presented to dermatology OPD with complaints of acne. Now, the dermatologist prescribed few topical gels and along with that advised for dietary modifications like avoidance of high glycemic index food, dairy products. What is the reason behind this? Very nice. Now, what happens? The dietary products like milk or the high glycemic index food, they increase insulin-like growth factor 1. And insulin-like growth factor 1 in turn increases the sebum production. And we have discussed in the beginning of the today's session that acne vulgaris is a disease of pilosebaceous unit. So when you have more activity of sebum or more activity of sebaceous gland, it will aggravate the formation of acne vulgaris. Clear with this? Please give me a thumbs up so you know what are the food agents. Can anybody tell me what are the drugs responsible for formation of or causation of acne? Anyone? Can you tell me what are the drugs which causes acne? Sophia, Raju, NT, Ashish. So please quickly write down a mnemonic for drug causing acne. The mnemonic is very simple. The mnemonic is pimple. Mnemonic is pimple where P stands for phenytoin, I stands for isoniazide, M stands for methyl cobalamin. What is methyl cobalamin? Methyl cobalamin is vitamin B12. So if you have noticed that whenever a patient take vitamin B12 injections or oral intake, there is sudden eruptions of either face or trunk acne form lesions. Then you have progesterone, then you have lithium, and you have epidermal growth factor receptor inhibitors. Understood all of you? So please remember the drug causing acne frequently asked questions. Write it down, the mnemonic to remember the drugs. ठीक है आगे बढ़े. I hope you all have understood and definitely no need of writing because you can get this in your PDF directly. So no need of writing it. Let's discuss another question. What is Koch's peculiar tumor? Very nice. Vaishnavi, Rameshwar, Dr. Sneha, Dr. Arush, Lega, Umang. Very well done, all my dear students. Okay. So, what is Koch's peculiar tumor? Please remember, it is nothing but when you have infection of sebaceous cyst, specifically on the scalp, it tend to form a large tumor-like growth, which is known as Koch peculiar tumor. Now, my question is, what are the common sites for development of this tumor? What are the common sites of development of Koch's peculiar tumor? Anyone can tell me the answer. What is the common site? Yes, the common site is scalp. Anyone can tell me why? Why you see very frequently the Koch's peculiar tumor on the scalp? The reason is what? Is it because of the sebaceous gland? Chalo, tell me what is sebaceous cyst? tell me what is sebaceous cyst. First of all, tell me that what is the main problem. किस gland का problem है ये? Anybody can tell me the answer. What gland is getting affected here? Is it sebaceous gland? Please remember, this is a misnomer. It has nothing to do with sebaceous gland, nothing to do. It is a pure misnomer. And the correct name which should be used is epidermoid cyst. Epidermoid cyst. What is the content of this cyst? Is it sebum? No, because it has nothing to do with sebaceous gland. The content is keratin. Okay? Now, why it is happening on the scalp more commonly compared to other body? Because first, in the scalp, the skin is between the bony surface. Okay, so whenever you have trauma, there is a increased risk that there is invagination of the skin inside the epidermis. How many of you agree with me? So you have the bone like this, and on the bone you have skin. So whenever you have trauma with a blunt object, what happens? A little bit part of the skin gets invaginated inside. And that part which gets invaginated inside, it keep on secreting keratin, forming a keratin cyst. Understood? So please remember, this is a very, very important part. The reason is not sebaceous gland. The content is not sebum. It is the epidermoid cyst which occurs because of inoculation or invasion of the keratinous part of the skin, that is keratinocytes, and these keratinocytes will then secrete keratin, and the common site becomes the scalp. Clear, all of you? I hope you understood the pathology. Quickly give me a thumbs up. Okay, ji, बढ़िया, fine. Let's go to the next question. Yogesh, Sam, Raju, Vaishnavi, very nice. Amazing, all of you, amazing. So, first of all, tell me what should be the diagnosis here? Anyone? So, I think there's no confusion. This becomes a classical case of alopecia areata. Okay, it becomes a classical case of alopecia areata. Why? Because they have given you that you have exclamatory sign, you have history of patchy hair loss without any scaling erythema. Can you tell me the absence of erythema and scaling tells you what? What BD this absence of scaling and erythema ruling out? They are ruling out tinea. Okay. So this is a case of alopecia areata, and the poor prognostic factors are early onset, other autoimmune conditions or associated atopy, widespread alopecia. Widespread means alopecia totalis, alopecia universalis, uffiasis pattern. So widespread lesions are also poor prognostic factor, and that is why the correct answer is option number 4. Clear? Any confusion with this? Okay, I hope this question is yes, very easy. Now, all of the following are non-cicatricial alopecia except. All of the following are non-cicatricial alopecia except. Very nice. So all of the following are non-cicatricial alopecia except. The answer is option number 4. Now, what do you mean by non-cicatricial? It means non-scarring. Non-scarring alopecia means there is very little inflammation, and because of little inflammation, the skin is normal. It is not giving rise to any scar. The examples of non-scarring we have divided into two groups. Can you tell me some more examples other than this? Remember 3A and 3T. 3A is androgenic alopecia, alopecia areata, and anagen effluvium. And 3T is telogen effluvium, trichotillomania, and lastly, tinea capitis. Now, what is ectodermal dysplasia? It is that group of disorder where the ectodermally derived tissues are not formed, like skin, hair, nail. Okay, so they are not formed. It is not related to any local inflammation. So it is congenital absence, and that is why this is grouped under a non-cicatricial type. While pseudopallid of Brooke is an example of scarring alopecia or cicatricial alopecia. And can you tell me what is the clinical image give you an appearance of in pseudopallid of Brooke? Any particular name to it? It is known as, very classically, footprint in snow appearance. It is known as very classically as footprint in snow appearance. Okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone. Please give me a quick thumbs up if you understood this, and if you have any confusion you can let me know so that I can solve the confusion. Is it a diagnosis of exclusion? Absolutely right, Kaustuv. Now please remember, pseudopallid of Brooke means a scarring type of alopecia where the cause is not known. So first of all, you have to rule out all the known causes of scarring alopecia. And if suppose you are not able to find out any particular cause, you will keep it under pseudopallid of Brooke, which is also known as idiopathic cause of scarring alopecia. Understood, Kaustuv? Clear? ठीक है? Fine. Sneha, Praveen, Vaishnavi, Yogesh, Dharani, amazing all of you. Okay. So, can you tell me what is Woods lamp and on what principle this instrument is based on? Anyone can tell me the answer? Yes. So it is based on the principle of fluorescence. Okay. Not wavelength, fluorescence. So this is a handheld instrument with power source at one end, and you have a rectangular head with glass window in the center. Now, this Woods lamp, they have UV bulb and they emit the wavelength of 365 nanometer, and the reflected light is then visualized through this glass window. Now, there are many components or many organisms which has the capability to emit the fluorescence. For example, the infectious agent like Pityriasis versicolor, Tinea capitis, we have Propionibacterium acne, they all have fluorescent structures. While in vitiligo, you have white color, porphyrias have red, Pityriasis again, that is a Pityriasis versicolor fungal infection, which is yellow in color. While in lichen planus, there is no tissue which reflects the wavelength of light once it receives the wavelength from the Woods lamp. And that is why the correct answer becomes option number 4, that is lichen planus. Clear? Anyone? Now, I request all of you to please write some of the other features or the color which you see under the fluorescence for different diseases. In Tinea capitis, it is mainly bluish green. Erythrasma, it is coral pink. Pityriasis versicolor is yellow. Pseudomonas green. Porphyria red, and vitiligo is ivory white. What you do in scabies, you take a fluorescent material and you spread it on the body. So what happened? That material enters the what? Yes, it enters the burrow in a patient of scabies, and those burrows then becomes visualized. So that is how you can fill the fluorescent solution in the burrow, and that can be easily visualized under the Woods lamp. So that is the principle. And you can see this is the coral red of erythrasma, and you can see compare the clinical image from the Woods lamp image. Very clearly, you can differentiate the vitiliginous and non-vitiliginous part. Clear? Clear with this question? Amazing. Next question is on your screen. Very nice. So falls about Langren lines are. Falls about Langren lines are very nice. Yogesh, Nadia, Z. Then we have Bachu, Praveen, Alan, Kostub, Shah. What are Langren lines? They look somewhat like this, and they corresponds the collagen alignment, the alignment of the collagen in the dermis. Now, why you need to know about the Langren line? Because it is very important when you give incision to the skin, it should always follow or it should be parallel to the Langren lines. If it is perpendicular, the lesion healing or the approximation of the margins becomes very difficult, and that is why the patient or the surgeon need to know the Langren lines. Okay? Yes. Now, a very important point about Langren line is that it is not a constant line; it is a dynamic line, and it keep on changing according to the age, and that is why the surgeon should know that how Langren lines changes according to the age, so that while giving the incision, it could be modified accordingly. Okay, so it do not remain constant throughout the life for a person. It is dynamic line. It keep on changing itself, and a surgeon need to know this so that the incision should be along the lines always. Clear? Rest everything is correct except option number 1. I hope this is clear to all of you. Very easy and simple question. Zang cell is keratinocytes, fibroblasts, neutrophils, lymphocytes. What are the Zang cells? Welcome Anurag, Sandhya, Shah, Praveen, Sneha. Everybody is welcome in today's session. So please remember the correct answer of the question is keratinocytes. Now what happens? The epidermis have different layers. The outermost is stratum corneum, which consists of flattened cells, anucleated cells. Can you tell me what is the layer below stratum corneum, which consists of lot of granules? This is stratum granulosum. Now below stratum granulosum, we have a polygonal cell layer like this. Now these cells have a very specialized structure which is present on their margin, which is known as desmosome, and this helps in the attachment of the adjacent cell. Now what happens in few diseases like pemphigus, this glue is lost. And obviously when the glue is lost, the cell gets separated. And please remember, when the cell gets separated, they attain a round shape. And these round shaped cells are known as acantholytic cells, or they are known as Zang cell. And now it is clear that Zang cells are nothing but the keratinocytes which have lost the attachment from the surrounding cells. And very nice, Praveen, when you lose the attachment from anywhere surroundings, Then you attempt a shape with minimal surface tension, and that is a round shape. So that is why these polygonal cells becomes round and they are known as Zank cells. Can you see them? This is a Zank smear or a Giemsa stain, which clearly shows round keratinocytes with large central nucleus, perinuclear halo, very, very classical of pemphigus group of disorder. Okay, I hope this is clear. There's no confusion. Another question is on your screen. Vaishnavi, Sam, Bachchu, Umang. Dr. Priya, very nice. Okay. So please remember in stratum basale, you see melanocyte, you see Merkel cell, as well as you see stratum basale keratinocyte. But can anybody tell me what is the location for Langerhans cell? Where do you see Langerhans cell in the skin or in the epidermis? Anyone? Praveen, Rameshwar, Kaustubh, Anurag. Very nice. It is seen in stratum spinos. Can you tell me Langerhans cells are derived from ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm? From where the Langerhans cells derives itself? Very nice. They are derived from bone marrow, which is mesoderm. They are derived from bone marrow, which is known as mesoderm. Clear, all of you? So it's a very easy and a simple question. I hope there is no confusion in this particular one. Clear? आगे बढ़े. Very nice. Identify the condition here. We have discussed, I think, this question yesterday only. Vaishnavi, Dr. Nadia, Umang, Priya, everybody is right. Rajashekhar, Kaustubh, Ellen, Lekha, Praveen, Rameshwar, Bachchu, Dharani, Aruvi, Ashok, Deva, Sam, Dr. RJ, G, Lokesh. Please remember, whenever you see concentric circles, multiple concentric circle, it means you are dealing with a patient of target lesion. Now here you have three classical zones. Can you see a central dusky zone? Yes or no? Can you see a central dusky zone here? This one. So this is the middle zone. Now just outside the middle zone, you can see a hypopigmented lesion. This is the zone of edema. And outside this, you can see redness. So that is erythema. So outer is erythema. The middle one is edema. And the central is necrotic or dusky. And these three zones are classically known as a target lesion or a target or seen in erythema multiforme. Clear with this question? If you have any confusion, please do ask. Fine. Very nice, Dharani, Aruvi, Praveen, Deva, Dr. Priya, Kaustubh, Dr. Nadia, Z, Ashok, Bachchu, Shah, Yogesh. Very well done, all my dear students. Elevated clear fluid blisters of size 2 centimeter would be classified as macule, nodule, vesicle, bulla. Very nice. The correct answer of this question is bulla. Please remember, if the fluid filled lesion is less than 0.5 or 1 centimeter, it is known as a vesicle. But if it is more than 1 centimeter or 0.5 centimeter, it is known as a bulla. And you can clearly see the difference. When it is very small, you can see discrete small lesions, they are vesicles. And here you can see large size lesions, which is known as bulla. So vesicle and bulla, the only difference is in the size. Both of them have fluid inside the inside this lesion. It is not a solid lesion. You have fluid inside these lesions. Amazing. You have another question on the screen. A patient comes with a history of bullae which involves more than 30% of the body surface area, along with erosions and other mucosa for the past 7 days. What is the most probable etiology? What is the most probable etiology here? Very nice, all of you. Very nice. The correct answer for this question is, first of all, tell me what is the diagnosis? Yes, it is toxic epidermal necrolysis. And if by any chance, instead of 30%, if there was less than 10%, can you tell me what will be the diagnosis? Yes, it becomes Steven Johnson syndrome. Now, please tell me, if it is Steven Johnson syndrome, then what will be the answer? You have marked drugs as the answer for toxic epidermal necrolysis, but if it is Steven Johnson, please remember the answer remains same. So the only difference in Steven Johnson syndrome and toxic epidermal necrolysis is the size of the lesion. Other than size, there is no difference. Okay? When it is less than 10% of the body surface area, it becomes Steven Johnson. In Steven Johnson, you see the oral mucosal lesion, you see all the sort of lesions. And same in toxic epidermal necrosis, you have more than 30%. Yes, and Praveen, between 10 to 30%, you have an overlap of SJS and 10. Very nice. Chalo ji. Denny Morgan fold is indicative of dermatitis herpetiformis, atopic dermatitis, leprosy, or TB. Vaishnavi, Lega, Sam, Aruvi, very nice, all of you. Denny Morgan fold is a minor criteria of atopic dermatitis. And what is it? Whenever you have an additional fold at the lower margin, can you see this image? There's an additional fold in the lower margin because of constant rubbing, and this is known as Denny Morgan fold. Okay? And it includes, or it is included as one of the minor criteria. Can you tell me other minor criteria? What are the other minor criteria of atopic dermatitis? You have dryness of skin, Denny Morgan fold, headlight sign, which is the depigmentation around the forehead and around the nose. Can you see here? Here also, around the eyes as well. So this is because of persistent vasoconstriction, which you see in the patients of atopic dermatitis. You can have Palmar hyperlinearity because of dryness of skin. You will see more lines on the Palmar skin. Then you have anterior subcapsular cataract. You have anterior subcapsular cataract. You have keratoconus, which is the conical shape of the cornea. Then ill-defined hypopigmented scaly patches on the face known as pityriasis alba. Periocular darkening, which is known as orbital darkening. Recurrent skin infections, increased Ig response, white dermographism. Instead of red, you have white dermographism. Hartogi sign is loss of lateral one-third of the eyebrow. And you have antenna sign, which means follicular keratosis. The part where the hair comes out, you have keratosis, which is seen. Clear? Okay. So please give me a thumbs up if you understood that question. Okay, fine, badhiya. Now another question. The most common cause of plant-induced dermatitis in India is poison ivy, parthenium, ragwood, cotton fibers. The most common cause of plant-induced dermatitis in India. Oh, very nice, very nice, very nice. Now, please remember the correct answer is Parthenium. And can anybody tell me what is the name of the allergen present in Parthenium which causes allergic contact dermatitis? What is the name of that allergen? Praveen, the allergen scientific name. Parthenium is the name of the plant. Very nice, Aruvi. It is sesquiterpene lecton. Please remember it is sesquiterpene lecton, which is the allergen present in the Parthenium plant, which causes allergic contact dermatitis. Now, all these questions are very important. I request all of you that this is the offer only till today, 12 p.m. From 1st October, the price is increasing. The 1 year subscription, which is right now 38 to 50, it will increase to 50,000. So please utilize this. I don't want anybody to pay more if you're getting this subscription right now. So it's a very limited time period offer, and please do get subscription. All these detailed questions will be discussed along with a lot of discussion of theory part in the plus courses. And there are many students who have got the benefit of the plus courses. So please do not miss this opportunity. If at all you are thinking even 2% or 5%, just go ahead and take it because it is very cheap right now. Clear? Now this is how a Parthenium plant look like. Very correctly said by Praveen that it is also known as Congress grass, also known as Gajar grass. Okay. The reason, please do not ask me why it is known as Gajar grass. It is not it's not the same plant like that of carrot. Now, the causative allergen is sesquiterpene lecton, and you can see involvement of the exposed part in these individuals. Okay. So child after taking medicine for fever presented with the following picture. Now, majority of you have marked option number 3, but my question is why this is not erythema multiforme? In erythema multiforme also you see involvement of mucosa. Can you tell me how the erythema multiforme differs from Stevens-Johnson syndrome? Anyone? Anyone? Praveen, Bachchu, Aruvi, Sneha? Anybody can tell me why this is not? Very nice costume. We have just now discussed how target lesion look like. So erythema multiforme always presents a target lesion, but this is not at all a target. This is a targetoid. This is a targetoid lesion, also known as atypical target, also known as atypical target. And why it is atypical? Because only two zones are present. Can you tell me, Kaustup, which zone is missing? Which zone is missing among these three? Yes. Please remember the middle zone is missing. The middle zone is missing, that is edema is missing in a targetoid lesion. ठीक है जी? Very easy and interesting, I guess. चलो, next question. Now, the lesion were exacerbated on excessive sweating, sun exposure, emotional disturbances. What is the diagnosis? SLE, acne rosacea, acne vulgaris, or photodermatitis? Very nice. The answer here is acne rosacea. And I think you can clearly see the presence of papules in a background of erythema along with the exposure to or exacerbation of the lesion on exposure to sun, sweating, and emotional disturbances. Please remember this is very important to differentiate SLE from acne rosacea. In SLE, the malar rash remains like that even if they take a lot of spicy food or emotional disturbance, the malar rash remains same. But in rosacea, they keep on changing with sudden increase or remission phases, which you see either secondary to sunlight or emotional disturbances. Okay? So the reason why it is acne rosacea because of these flare up or remission phases of rosacea. Clear? Can you tell me the name of an organism which is responsible for this condition, like the organism which precipitate development of rosacea? Amazing. Now, please tell me the correct answer of this question. Photosensitive dermatitis is R. So, majority of you got confused because of option number 4. Very nice. Yes. So, it is not always all as the answer. Now, please remember, if you remember when I was teaching psoriasis, what did I tell you? You give sunlight as a therapy. How many of you remember this? What is phototherapy? You give either oral or topical Soralin and you ask the patient to stand in the sun. Now, if this is a photosensitive disease, will you give phototherapy as one of the treatment option? No. So that was one hint which if you would remember the treatment, you could have answered this. And again, in pemphigus, there is no such indication. You can also remember that pemphigus mainly occurs on the covered part. And if it is a photosensitive dermatosis, it should be on the exposed part. Only pellagra is a photosensitive disorder which presents with photosensitive dermatitis. You have diarrhea and dementia. Clear, all of you? Please give me a quick thumbs up if you understood this point. Very, very important. Uh, there is one confusion. Yes, there is one more death. You are right. If patient is not taken care of on time, it can even go to the phase of death. ठीक है जी चलो okay जी so you have to tell me what is the answer of this question. Please tell me the correct answer. This is B, should be. Okay, ji. Very well done, all of you. So, a 20-year-old male presented to emergency department with widespread lesions. The patient was started on anti-epileptic, that is phenytoin. The question is, which of the following is wrong? Now, A patient present with widespread lesion, can you tell me what could be the diagnosis here? What could be the diagnosis here? This is a case of most probably toxic epidermal necrolysis, which is a drug induced disease or it is a drug reaction. Now, what is the first thing you do whenever you get a drug reaction? You will stop the culprit drug. So, how can you continue phenytoin, which is the culprit drug here? The only incorrect statement is option number 2. Clear? And can you tell me what are the drugs causing toxic epidermal necrolysis, the most common drugs? Any mnemonic you know? The most common drug causing toxic epidermal necrolysis, please write down the mnemonic. Natural and clear soap. Where N stands for nevirapine, C stands for carbamazepine, S stands for what? Sulfa group of drug, O for oxycams or the NSAIDs, A for, anyone can tell me what is A? Allopurinol. A is for allopurinol and P is for phenytoin. P is for phenytoin. ठीक है, phenytoin, even penicillamine. ठीक है. So phenytoin and penicillamine, both of them are the causative drugs. So please remember the mnemonic natural and the clear soap. Chalo ji, I think this question is easy now. Should I go to the next page? Yes. Gold poisoning leading to exfoliative dermatitis is treated by. Gold poisoning, which is leading to exfoliative dermatitis, is treated by. Very nice. Okay. The correct answer here is option number 2. Whenever you have poisoning with something which can lead to development of exfoliative dermatitis, which is the erythrodermic stage, always treat the patient by giving steroids. Okay. There's no role of chloroquine, no role of antibiotic or antihistaminic in these individuals. You have to quickly start the patient on the steroid so that it can be taken care of at an appropriate time. Clear with this question? Next question is on your screen. Very nice, Vaishnavi, Sam, Z. Very well done. So this is a case of fixed drug eruption. Now, what is the property of this fixed drug eruption? It always occurs on the same site. For example, like if a patient is having the history of having the lesion on the lips or on the genitals, whenever he takes the same drug, the lesion occurs on the same site where he had the lesion previously. That is why it is known as fixed drug eruption. Very frequently seen with painkillers like NSAIDs or paracetamol. Even sulfa group of drugs are very, very frequently involved. And lastly, remember that these lesions will always heal with hyperpigmentation. So these lesions will always heal with hyperpigmentation. Clear? Okay? And how will you treat FD? Can you tell me how will you treat a patient of fixed drug eruption? What will you give? You will give, you will ask the patient not to take it, and if it is only localized, you will give topical steroids, and if it is severe generalized, you have to give oral steroids in those individuals. ठीक है जी, चलो, very nice. 30 seconds on your screen. A 25-year-old female patient on sulfonamide develops a generalized rash, including atypical target lesions with severe mucosal involvement and the body surface area of less than 10%. So I think now it is clear that how the questions of SJS will be asked. Drug reaction, atypical lesion, the body surface area of less than 10%. Clear with this? Anyone has any confusion? आगे बढ़े, should we go to the next question? Very nice. Which of the following is the most common pattern of adverse drug reaction? Which of the following is the most common pattern of adverse drug reaction? Please remember the answer is maculopapular rash. So most common pattern means like if you calculate or if you accumulate the data of all the drug reactions which are reported. See what happens. We have national index or diaries which monitors the drug reactions. So hospital has to send the data to these centers, and then the result or the data is analyzed. So it is found that the total reports of drug-induced maculopapular rash is maximum. Okay, so the most common type of drug rash which you get is maculopapular rash. They develop macule, erythematous background, papules over it. So the answer is option number 2. Clear, all of you? Very limited students have answered this question, and that is why I have explained it in a little detail. Now moving to the next question. ADR means adverse drug reaction. Which of the following is adverse drug reaction? Very nice. Please remember adverse drug reaction, which is localized is FDE. Now, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, we have discussed that it can occur anywhere in the body. Body surface area should be less than 10%. Toxic epidermal necrolysis, anywhere in the body, the surface area should be more than 30%. And what is DRESS? Please write down, it is drug rash with eosinophilia and systemic symptoms. Drug rash with eosinophilia and systemic symptoms, that is the ADR or adverse drug reaction, which is localized. Now, this drug rash can be of any type. It can be maculopapular, it can be SGS-like, it can be TEN, but it is kept under the DRESS because it has associated features of eosinophilia and systemic symptoms. Understood or not? So it's a broad category. Any type of drug reaction when it have associated eosinophilia and systemic features like lymph node enlargement, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, you will keep it under the category of stress. Okay, so you can have generalized lesions also. So that is why the answer becomes option number 3. Okay, ji, fine. Very nice. Severe mucosal involvement is a feature of SJS and 10. Okay, you will see severe lesions in SJS 10. Another question. Now, this is a very interesting question. Now, if a patient has allergy with anti-epileptic drug, but he's also a known case of epilepsy and you have to give a drug, which of the following is the safest anti-epileptic among the options provided? And your time starts now. Very nice, all of you. Vaishnavi, Z, Lega, Dr. Priya, Kaustubh, Sam, Umang, Arnab, Praveen, Amulya, Yogesh, Lokesh. Very well done, all my dear students. So, which of the following anti-epileptic drug is generally considered safe from the point of view of severe drug reaction? Which is considered to be the safe from the point of view of severe ADR? Please remember, sodium valproate among the options provided is the safest. Can anybody tell me any other drug, any other anti-epileptic which is safest, which is not given in the option? It is lamotrigine. Okay, so the risk of having epilepsy or drug reaction with lamotrigine and sodium valproate is least. Okay, yes, amazing. I think it's an easy question. Very well done. So please remember, a 3-year-old child with itchy lesions on the extensors, mother has history of bronchial asthma, the diagnosis becomes atopic dermatitis. And we all know that atopic dermatitis is a clinical diagnosis. Can you tell me what is the name of criteria? The criteria system is known as Rajkas and Hanafian. It says that you should have itching plus either 2 major or 3 minor criteria. Itching plus 2 major or 3 minor criteria will give you an idea that you are dealing with a case of atopic dermatitis. So itching plus 1 major, that is eczematous dermatitis on extensor, and positive family history is the second major. Can you tell me one more major criteria which is left here? The another major criteria is chronicity of the disease. Chronicity of the disease is another major criteria, and you can look at here: itching, typical morphology, chronicity, and atopy. All these are the major criteria. And we have already discussed the minor criteria: Denny-Morgan fold, itching, then white dermographism, Palmer hyperlinearity. You have anterior subcapsular cataract, keratoconus, pityriasis alba, orbital darkening, etc. So these they were the minor criteria, and major criteria are as given in your computer score. Fine. What is spongiosis? It is intercellular edema in between the cells of stratum spinosum, and this is a very characteristic feature of acute eczema. Okay, very characteristic feature of acute eczema. It is not a feature of chronic, it is a feature of acute eczema. So try to remember all these points, they are very important. Can you tell me what is the common site for atopic dermatitis? Very nice. The commonest site of atopic dermatitis is anterior cubital fossa. It is the anterior cubital fossa which is the common site. Okay. Flexures are more common than the extensors. Very well done, all of you. Praveen, absolutely right. In which form of psoriasis you see cone-shaped lesions? 100% answer. Very nice. Vaishnavi, Sam, Umang, Praveen, very nice, all my dear students. Ronit, Rameshwar, Vishnu, Dharni, very well done. The limpet leg scale is a feature of rheumatoid psoriasis where you see thick scales like this. Can you see thick scales, very thick scales? And if you remove these scales, they will look like scales. So this type of rheumatoid or thick limpet leg scale is a feature of, or it's a variant of psoriasis known as rheumatoid psoriasis. Which is the least affected site for chronic plaque psoriasis? Umang, Vaishnavi, Lega, Praveen, Dr. Priya, Z, Sam, Salman, Rameshwar, Ronit, Kaustubh. Very nice, all my dear students. The least affected site in chronic plaque psoriasis is lower back, elbows, knee, gluteal cleft, or axilla. Please remember the correct answer is option number 4. Flexures are the uncommon site, while extensors are the common site for development of psoriasis. Gluteal cleft, although, is an exception where you get a lot of lesions. So gluteal cleft or the lower back is same. Gluteal cleft and the lower back, high risk. Elbows, then knees, scalp, palm and soles. These are some of the very important sites where you develop a lot of psoriasiform lesions. And it is always advisable for the psoriasis patients to look for these areas, the hidden part of the body. Okay? Now another question is on your screen. Vaishnavi, Sam, Lega, Yogesh, Ronit, Umang, Praveen, Kaustubh, Arnab. Please remember, whenever you see micropapular skin color lesions on either the exposed part or on the penile shaft, it becomes a case of lichen nitidus. And can you tell me a characteristic histopathological finding of this condition? We have discussed this already. Anyone can just repeat it for me. You have something called as claw clutching ball appearance, where the inflammatory infiltrate, which is present beneath the dermoepidermal junction, the rete ridges, they extend. Can you see here? The rete ridges are getting extend and they are actually trying to localize the inflammation, which gives an appearance as if the ball is present inside or in between the claws. So this type of appearance is seen here, which is known as claw clutching ball appearance. Very, very specific of lichen nitidus. Okay? So I think this question is easy, no confusion. Another question. Which of the following is associated with psoriasis? Micromondo abscess, fur tree appearance, epidermal hyperplasia. Very nice, Lega, Z, Sam, Kostu, Rameshwar. Very nice, all my dear students. The correct answer here is option number 2. What is micromondo abscess? It is the collection of neutrophils inside the stratum corneum. What is parakeratosis? Presence of nucleus in the cells of stratum corneum. And epidermal hyperplasia, it is seen for all the layers, stratum corneum, even stratum spinosum get proliferated. So the correct combination is option number 2. Okay, chalo. Very nice, Vaishnavi, Sam, Lega, Kaustubh, Z. So suddenly we have a good number of students who have joined. So maybe the other classes have ended, and that is why there is a sudden increase in the students. Now please remember that the skin lesions which are shown here, you can see that they are somewhat like this. So it is like actually you had multiple cycles, and the middle part they got fused. This part got fused. And that is why you see a lesion like this, which is known as polycyclic lesion. Understood all of you what is polycyclic? Okay. Ji. Now please remember the polycyclic is somewhat like this. What is reticulate? Anyone? Reticulate is like a net. Can you see like a net? So this is known as reticulate pattern. What was the another option? Annular. Annular, I've told you the consistency of the center is different from the consistency of periphery. So this is an annular lesion. And the last option was a target. So how does a target lesion look? Target lesion look like this. Clear? So target lesion look somewhat like this. The correct answer is option number 1, which is polycyclic lesions. Okay, ji? Okay, now we have another question. Identify the condition here. No, annular is the one which we have just now seen. Discoid is an alternate name of nummular. In annular, the periphery and the margin has a different consistency. The periphery and the margin has the center and the periphery has a different consistency, while in discoid you have uniform consistency throughout, and it is mainly round in shape. That is why it is known as discoid. Okay? Yes, even you can use the term coin shape for discoid or nebular. For this question, the answer is guttate psoriasis, which is an infective condition. You see the lesions mainly on the trunk. Can you tell me what is the causative agent for guttate? Yes, it is group A, beta hemolytic. Group A, beta hemolytic streptococcus infection. Group A, beta hemolytic streptococcus infection. Okay, very, very important. And it mainly comes from either the infected throat or middle ear infection. So these are some of the common sites from where you get it. Next question. All are the presentations of psoriasis except nail changes, CNS involvement, arthritis, or skin involvement. So all are the presentation of psoriasis except, please remember the correct answer is option number 2. You will not get any central nervous system involvement. It is a disease of skin. So why will you get anything in the central nervous system? So the correct answer is option number 2. Clear all of you? Please give me a quick thumbs up if you understood this question. Now, please do the next question. All are true about psoriasis except very pruritic, pitting of nail, joint involvement, parakeratosis, and acanthosis or Munro's abscess. Very nice. The correct answer is very pruritic. In psoriasis, you can get itching. Please remember, in psoriasis, you can get itching, but it is never very pruritic. Please remember, it is never very, very pruritic. Okay? So that is something which you all need to know. Itching is the common complaint for lichen planus, but never the common complaint for psoriasis patient. And that is why the correct answer becomes option number 1. चलो जी बढ़िया बहुत ही बढ़िया. Now we'll go to the next one. Vitamin D analogs, that is calcipotriol, is useful in the treatment of psoriasis, lichen planus, pemphigus, leprosy. Very well done. Please remember, calcipotriol is a treatment given in psoriasis patient. Okay, so you give vitamin D analogs, you give coal tars, enthralin, topical steroids, you give topical uh, calcineurin inhibitors like tacrolimus, even retinoids like tazarotene, they all are used for treating psoriasis. So the answer here is option number 1. Drug of choice for systemic pustular psoriasis or for pustular psoriasis is so majority of you have marked option number 1. I don't know why. Which of the following is the drug of choice in pustular psoriasis? Which of the following is the drug of choice for pustular psoriasis? Please remember the correct answer is systemic retinoid. The answer is acitretin. Steroids are only given when they give you impression that a pregnant patient presented to you with pustular psoriasis or erythrodermic psoriasis. So please remember, keep steroids only for pregnant patient. Otherwise, acitretin is a treatment option for pustular. Can you tell me what is the drug of choice for erythrodermic psoriasis? Very nice. It is methotrexate. It is methotrexate. Very well done, all of you. Chalo ji, बढ़िया. Should we go to the next question? Okay. So which among the following is the most specific sign of nail psoriasis? Please remember, everybody, the correct answer is oil drop. Oil drop is considered to be the most specific, while the pitting is considered to be the most common. Okay. So this most common and specific is sometimes confusing. Please do not get confused. Which of the following biological drug used for psoriasis act against IL-17 receptor? Which of the following drugs, which is for psoriasis, act against IL-17 receptor? Please remember, IL-17 receptor is brodalumab, while IL-17 interleukin is secukinumab and executinib. This was a AIMS question, and still only 21% have answered this. So very important for your INI-CT. Okay, so remember all the biologics. They can ask you these questions again in your exam. Which joint is classically involved in a patient of psoriasis? Kaustubh, Praveen, Lega, Sam, Vishnu, very nice. Lokesh, Z, Alan, Rutuja, Praveen, very nice. Which joint is classically affected? It is the distal interphalangeal joint. While in rheumatoid arthritis, if you remember, it was the proximal interphalangeal joint. So the correct answer here is option number 2, not option number 1. In rheumatoid arthritis, the involvement is different. Okay, ji. Next question. Very nice, all of you. Please remember that all are the causes of papillosquamous except congenital syphilis, which is a vesiculobullous lesion. In congenital syphilis, you will never develop vesicles. In congenital syphilis, you will never develop papules, pustules, or any scales. The main clinical feature which you see here is vesiculobullous lesions, and this is sometimes also known as syphilitic pemphigus. And I think this was the last question of the today's session. Please give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed the today's class. And only one thing I want to put forth in front of you. Please utilize this only till 12 p.m. today. From 1st October, the price hike it will increase to 50,000. So please use my code Cheshta10 and subscribe to an academy. So good night. We'll meet again maybe day after tomorrow, not tomorrow. So with another interesting sessions, very, very helpful for dermatology. Till then, bye bye. Take care and good day.